Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today's exploration is entitled Don't Swallow the Storm. And I heard this piece of advice on a television show I was watching over the weekend, and I can't for the life of me remember which television show it was. My fiance was poorly over the weekend, so we didn't move a lot off the sofa, which is perfectly fine. So, but I just loved it. The advice was being given, if I remember rightly, to somebody who was quite wound up about a situation in their life, and it was given to them by a friend. And I think they said, "Oh, my granddad used to say, don't swallow the storm." And I just absolutely love that idea. I think it really encapsulates the direction that I point people in, because there's definitely a physical world happening in our lives, isn't there? There's people behaving in certain ways. There are certain circumstances happening. There are things that we don't like. There are things that look like they're very strange, particularly over the last couple of years. There are things that seem like they should be different. There's all those things. There's things happening in the world, and I am not at all saying don't have opinions or don't have ideas about what you think's right and you think's wrong. But what I am encouraging you to do is not swallow the storm, because what we tend to do, and I am as guilty of this, not guilty, but I do this too, is we take a situation in our lives that we don't like, and then we proper rant about it, don't we? Anybody else like a rant about things? And we get upset, and we feel a horrible feeling inside us, and then it looks like the outside world needs to be different. And if that's something that we can't change, if it's somebody whose behaviour we can't even suggest that they change because they live in number 10 Downing Street and we don't have any means to tell them to behave differently, or there's somebody who we wouldn't deem it appropriate, or it brings about this sense of a lack of control, I think. And that feels terrible, because what happens is we look into the world, we don't like something, we start to rant, we have a horrible feeling. Storm, that's the storm. We have the storm inside us, and then we look at the outside world and we go, right, all these things need to change. This person needs to behave differently, and this government needs to make a different decision, and this situation needs to be different, because otherwise this feeling that I have inside me, this storm inside me, won't go away. And of course, that is an absolutely beautiful self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Because the more we're wound up about it and we're looking at the world and we're going, I need this to change, and that isn't changing. So then we feel worse and worse. And once we realize that that's not really how it's working, that's what's transformational. That's where freedom is. Freedom does not come from making all these circumstances the same. The storm does not go down because all the circumstances are exactly not the same, exactly as we want them to be. The storm goes when we realize what's creating it. The storm goes when we realize that the storm is created within us. It is not created in the outside world. It is a fruitless storm chasing job to try and make the world make us okay. If we think that storm is only going to go away when the world outside us changes, when other people changes and circumstances change, then we are going to be really unhappy, really dissatisfied with life, really in a place of anxiety and stress as we try to make the outside world change so that the storm goes away. So what's really creating that storm? It's how we think about things. It's the thought that comes to us in the moment when that thing's happening. And that's why, you and I will have different things that seem to be making us stormy. There might be something in the outside world right now that is really bothering you, and I don't have any, I'm not bothered about it at all, and vice versa. There might be something that you're not bothered about and I'm really wound up about. So it can't be the circumstance, can it? And have you noticed too that you fluctuate? If you're not thinking about that thing that you don't like, that you don't think should be that way, or that person who you don't think should be that way and shouldn't be behaving like that, you don't have any experience of them at all. You don't have that feeling, you don't have the storm. You've probably noticed sometimes you're really stormy and wound up about something. Maybe you're having a row with your other half, and then one of your children needs you, and the whole thing just falls away. Your other half's still doing that behaviour. But because you've taken your attention somewhere else and your awareness somewhere else, the storm's just gone, falls away. And I don't know if you've noticed, I noticed that it's quite difficult to find it again, actually, isn't it? You can't wind yourself up quite to the same level. Now, none of this is personal. Like, it sounds like I'm saying you need to sort your thinking out and then you'll have a better experience of life, but I'm not. That's not where I'm pointing to. I'm just pointing to how it works. Because something amazing happens when we know how something works. You've seen that in so many aspects of your life. I like to use driving as an example because most of us have learned to drive or learned to operate something, even if it's a computer or a phone or whatever. And it all seems so mystical to start with, doesn't it? And we make mistakes because it's messy and we're not sure how it all works. And then we learn and then we operate it better. And that's what I'm pointing to with your psychological system. If you misunderstand where the storm is coming from, you will do things in the world to manage something that isn't being created in the way you think it's being created. So it's almost like you'd be building a dam over the wrong river. There's a flood happening, people are going to die in a village, and you're off building a dam in the wrong place. And the water is still flooding down into the poor people in the village. There's that misunderstanding leads us to try and change the outside world a lot. And my personal experience of this is that it led to burnout in the end. That is what happened to me from trying to make the outside world behave properly, so that I could be okay. And the outside world flipping refused to behave properly. So I burnt out because I kept trying to. I had this storm inside me. I often felt angry. I was angry a lot. I had this storm inside me, and I thought that my ex-husband needed to behave a certain way, my children's lives needed to be a certain way. People especially were not supposed to pull out in front of me at a roundabout because they got the wrath of Claire big time. All these things outside of me, trying to control them, became a ridiculous, almost full-time job that eventually, because you can't actually do that, led to burnout, exhaustion, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. So don't swallow the storm. Sometimes you are going to swallow the storm and you're not going to spot that you're doing that. But even in the moment, even if a little bit of ranting's happened and then you realize, oh, this storm is coming from inside, something amazing happens. And that does not stop us from desiring to change things, desiring for, to have a sensible, quiet conversation with somebody who's behaving in a way that is not particularly acceptable to you. You can still, but coming from the place of the storm, you are not going to put yourself out there in the best way. So just start to notice when you swallow the storm. That's all this is, this encouragement, this awareness to just notice when you swallow the storm. That's all you need to do. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.